Fair.
Hi, everybody out there in virtual lunchtime theater land. My name is Judy Rawlings. I'm the Art Education and Outreach Director here at the Herberger. Well, no, actually not here at the Herberger Theater Center, there at the Herberger Theater Center. And we would be there at the Herberger Theater Center, but life had other plans for Judy Rawlings and the Herberger and Lunchtime Theater. Now, if we were there at the Herberger Theater Center, I would no doubt be doing my usual curtain speech, and I would be talking about all the wonderful resident companies at the Herberger, and I would be asking you all to fill out a survey telling us what you think about lunchtime theater. And then I would say, at the end of every single month, I put all the surveys in a great big hat. My boss, however, will only let me pull out 2. But those 2 fabulously fortunate folk win free and clear, no strings attached, wait for it, 2 tickets to Lunchtime Theater. Yay! However, since we are not at the Herberger Theater Center, we are interviewing some of the wonderful artists whose shows had to be postponed because of the pandemic. And today we're going to be talking to Karen Burns, and there she is on our screen. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
But before we go to Karen, I want to introduce someone who needs no introduction. Mary Robinson, who is my associate. She's my associate in name, but she does more for Lunchtime Theater than you could ever even begin to talk about. So basically, Mary is my partner. We are partners and we do this thing together. So Mary, say a few words.
Hi, Judy, thank you. I am so happy to be interacting with the Lunchtime Theater guests. If not in the building, at least virtually. I wish we were in the CACs, but that time will come again. Well, with all the world happenings and everything, we had to postpone several of our Lunchtime Theater companies, Scan Originals and Brad Allen and James Garcia and Karen Burns, Theater 360 and T.A. Burroughs. But we are working really hard to get them rescheduled for the 2021 season. And speaking of that, Judy and I are really busy getting that schedule together. It's our 20th year coming up. So be looking in your mailbox for our new season brochure about the end of July. And we will see you all back in the Herberger Theater Center in September.
Thank you, Mary. Karen Burns. There is no way to sum up Karen Burns in a few words. And anyway, since this is an interview format, the word should be hers. But here is a little preview in pictures of Ms. Burns. She is a dancer. She is an animal lover. She is a warrior. She is a femme fatale. Actually, in this picture, she was an actor on The Young and the Restless. She is a warrior who sometimes falls, and she is a past member of one of the most famous dance troupes in the world. Oh, and by the way, she's the 5th one from the right, if you want to look hard. So that's our Karen. Mary, why don't you start?
State your name, rank, and serial number. No, I'm just kidding, but can you tell us something about you, your history, when and where, and why did you become an artist?
Well, I don't actually know why and when I became an artist. I think it was a process. You know, maybe I was born that way, but you know how life happens and you get a little bit lost. I know when I knew what I wanted to do, I was a sophomore in college and really just having way too much fun. And my dad did not feel that I had a sense of direction in my life other than the next party. So he sent me to Europe with a nun to go backpacking for several months. I ended up staying for quite a while, but it worked. I got the direction because my nun friend decided we should go see a chorus line in London. And I had never seen anything like that form of dancing. I had danced as a child, but jazz dancing was just amazing. And there was the life I wanted to live there on that stage. They were telling like all of the inside of me that had never been expressed. So that was the first night. And then I stayed, I think, for 6 months. But when I got back, I started studying dance very intensely, even though I had when I was little. And thanks to my dad, I did end up becoming a professional dancer. And then from there, I went on to study acting and voice, because I knew when I was a Rockette that jumping on steel for much longer was going to just completely do me in. So from there, I was able to work as an actor and choreograph pieces and write things and star in things. And it's been a good, very hard life, but it was good. And, you know, I'm grateful to my dad. I think that answers that. Is that right?
Yeah, great, thank you. So Karen, what is the name of the show that you had planned to do, and when were you going to be performing it?
Okay, so the title is An Otherwise Magical Life. It's about my life. And it was going to run from June 15th to June 25th next month.
So, but how many shows have you done for Lunchtime Theater, and do you have a favorite?
I think I've done 4. 3 of them I co-created with Deborah Rich Gettleman, and one of them I just did a short part of a play that she had written on her own. And I think my favorite was our first collaboration, and the Chihuahua. I was really amazed that we pulled it off. So that remains a crowning achievement.
What draws you to Lunchtime Theater?
I just love what you guys are doing. You are giving artists who would have a very difficult time getting their work showcased out to experiment in front of a live audience. So any artist of any kind, I think it's important what you are doing. You're helping build up the next generation of artists and performers, and I sincerely appreciate it. So thank you for including me.
Well, it looks like from your pictures that we saw that you do a lot more than just write and perform. What else do you do, or have you done, and where and when?
Okay, yeah, I do a lot of things, so I'm consequently very tired. But I started teaching when I got married and had children, and I mostly teach dance, because dancing, you know, that was my first thing. I've been teaching through private studios, and the community college is here locally. I've taught at MCC and Chandler Gilbert and Central Arizona College for years, plus in studios. I largely teach jazz, but I've also taught ballet, tap, tumbling, and musical theater. I do still teach like 1 class a week, but I am recently disabled. Well, for a year now. My body has these dumb diseases that they don't play well with me, and they just force me to fight legions of demons of pain for my entire life. And so consequently, I spend a lot of my time in braces and in hospitals, and it's not ideal for teaching dance. But I do still teach 1 class a week, musical theater, but I have help. So really all I have to do is like move my shoulders, you know, my little head bobbing, you know, things like that. But I also write, and I teach piano, voice, acting, and I performed at Radio City Music Hall. I've done movies and television work. I toured in a dance company for 5 years called Dangerous Curves out of LA. We were with a comedy group called Moving Violations, and we traveled around the world. So I got to experience some life in other countries, super fun. Japan probably has the funniest stories. There's something else I was going to talk about. Oh, I know. While acting in LA, I was in a great company called the Actors Co-op, fabulous company, and I got to do amazing work. One of them was called Becoming Memories. So the title is good, Becoming Memories, because I met my husband there, who consequently then gave me a couple of daughters. That show ran for months, so there was just a lot of time for me to tease him consistently, which I felt I should still do, and I do. Still tease him all the time, but it's been good. It's been a really good life. We moved here to the desert because he grew up here and he got a job teaching theater at Phoenix Country Day School, which I teach there too during the summers sometimes. Musical theater, a lot of musical theater. I also love animals, and a lot, just so much, more than people. way more than people. And I worked in LA for the American Humane Association, protecting animal actors on TV and film sets. It was a great job, paid nothing, virtually nothing, but I had a wonderful time. I actually helped Billy Crystal birth his calf in City Slickers. I climbed through the fake cow butt to make sure that, you know, Fonzie the calf wouldn't get hurt. So that was a very dignified job. I also volunteered at the zoo feeding giraffes and stingrays. And for a minute, I was the otter ambassador, but then I got upgraded to giraffes. Very proud of that. I think that's it. I think that's all I do.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. You know, I can't even comprehend it. Do you have a favorite and why? All of the things that you do.
Dancing. It's dancing. It is, I don't know. I think it was born in me. That music, I love music so much. Playing the piano is cool too, but I think dancing is the best way to be strong and confident and escape anything you don't want to deal with. The moment you start moving to music, that is gone. I think it is such an intense thing to immerse yourself in. It takes years and years and years, and every ounce of energy and time that you possibly have. I've always felt that if world leaders were forced to take ballet seriously, there would be much fewer conflicts. They would just not have the time or energy to start anything up. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
You think it's possible, Karen, that maybe you could read a little something from your show?
Sure.
Good. Love to hear that.
Thank you for asking. I thought I'd read this segment and I should put on my glasses so that it's like a little more accurate. This segment about my very first dance class. Okay, I'll try to make it interesting. Here it is. In 1962, I learned to love the world from the inside of a dance studio. I was 4. Clutching my new pink ballet box and my mother's hand, I carefully climbed the 2 steps into Charlotte Crowley's Dancette studio for the first time. My nervous wreck of a mother scooped me up and put me on the low bench in the waiting room with the other 4-year-old girls. I had been begging to come into this beautiful Pepto-Bismol pink studio since we'd seen the Nutcracker last year when, you know, I was just 3. As my mom gently took off my leg braces, I looked around the room to see if all the other girls had their leg braces off too. At this point, I'm not old enough to know that I'm usually the only person in any room sporting leg braces from just above my knee to down around my ankles. I'm also not old enough to know that I was born with my hips creatively inserted into their sockets backwards. I don't know at this point that it's odd to have been teetering between life and death and in and out of hospital since my hips first came shooting out of my mother. I know I'm different already. I just don't know why. And I inherently know that every time I see music, I must dance. Even jumping out of my seat during the Nutcracker last year and dancing onto the stage. I didn't know the choreography, but they let me stay anyway. But I guess who was going to throw off a 3-year-old in leg braces off of a community production of the Nutcracker? They're just not going to do it. I do know that my mother has been forced by me to open the door into this beautiful place so that I can straighten out. Back on the bench, my mother puts on my new pink ballet slippers out of this and pulls them on each of my feet. She sets me down and then she stood back to admire me, her nearly perfect daughter. I can't imagine how hard this had to have been for her. She opened up her daughter to ridicule, to possible failure, and most definitely to pain. But she did it anyway, and I sincerely hope I thanked her. She walks me over to the line of little girls waiting for the door to open for class. We are just a sea of chubby bellies and thighs poured into tiny black leotards and pink tights. When the Amazon teacher, Charlotte Crowley, opens the door, we all waddle in like an excited herd of flamingos. I'm the last one in, and I have no idea what to do. The other girls are finding these little spots on the floor to stand on. I'm about to cry when Mrs. Crowley says, "Come with me, sugar." And she leans me over to a little clear spot. She says, "Stand in first position." I don't know what first position is. And Mrs. Crowley looks like nothing I have ever seen. Her black hair towers on top of her head in what I now know is a beehive. She has bright red lips that match her long red nails. She has on a black, sparkly leotard cinched at the waist with a red sequin belt, black fishnets with rhinestones up the back, and black high heels. I wanted to be just like her. That was my goal in a ballet teacher. The other girls have all their feet on their little spots in the shape of a slice of pizza, which, looks like that. Heels together, toes out. Since my feet won't do this on their own, I bend over and try to make them do it on their own, which I can. But then I can't stand up. And I'm looking around, I'm bent over, my little bunny's in the air, and I can see the other little girls are starting to laugh at me. So, employing a skill that I learned in my starring role in the Nutcracker last year, I intentionally get more ridiculous. I start sassily shaking my bum when Mrs. Crowley walks over and gently just pulls me up on my shoulders. And there in the mirror, I am standing tall and straight with my feet facing the mirror where I normally see them facing behind me. It was truly a moment of, this is where I'm going. Mrs. Crowley then goes over to the corner and perches on this tall stool and crosses those perfect sparkly legs, lights a cigarette, pops a piece of gum in her mouth, takes a swig of something, lowers the needle onto the record, glares at us and says, "Play, ladies." And then when the music starts to play from that little record, I know that my life will be changed forever. So through braces and ballet, the legs that I had that were broken to begin with did straighten out, and they gave me a fighting chance. 20 years later, standing in another line with 600 other dancers outside the stage door to Radio City Music Hall, I look around and we all look the same. But there's that voice in my head that says, I will always be broken. There's just some perceptions that never change. Mrs. Crowley, though, would have been stunned to learn that the girl who got stuck finding her first position squelched that voice in her head that day and became a rockette, two of the most famous straight legs in the world, and then went on to teach hundreds of little girls how to find their own first piece of pizza. Charlotte Crowley's dance set studio isn't really where I learned to dance, but it is where I learned to defy imperfection. That's the part I thought I'd read. We good?
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you. It gives me shivers and tears. Anyway.
Oh, thank you.
So why did you write this play, and why do you want to do it right now? Or play, or yeah.
Yeah, I think the play. Yeah. I think because finally, at this point in my life, I've been able to arrive at a perception and a perspective on my life that's different when you're in it all. I've had some really difficult things to overcome. I had a really rough childhood, not just the physical, but there were other tragedies that occurred. I'm also a survivor of the Golden State Killer up in Northern California in Sacramento, and it's taken me about 40 years to be able to really wrap my head around that. So I'm ready finally to tell my story. And through it, I see all of the ridiculous humor that is in every step of the way. And I believe that we are all to tell our stories of how we have overcome and how we've survived and lived and found joy in the process, so that we can maybe help somebody else, get through their own situations, their own highs and lows, to climb their own mountains. So that's why I want to tell it now. I think I can finally tell it from a humorous perspective that will give strength. God, please, I hope that's the case.
I'm sure it will. So Karen, is there anything else you want to share with our viewers? Good or not so good stories, maybe? What are you doing during this whole pandemic thing?
Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Well, I redesigned our office. Well, my husband did, and then I'm sitting in it. So I did a lot of that. I kind of like being an inmate. My house is nice and it's comforting. My husband and I don't believe we're designed to live 24/7 together. Even though we're closer, I believe I seriously, if he clears his throat one more time, I'm pitching a tent in the backyard. I have to say, of everybody in our household, the dog is the happiest. But that's how I like the quarantine from my perspective. So happy, but you know, I do ugly cry every day when I decide to watch the news or read the news. So the tragedy does kill me, but I'm fine. I hope you guys are too.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Karen. Your story is so inspirational and funny, and we love you. Thank you, viewers, for coming to watch our interview. Please come to see the next one. And so I'm going to say goodbye once again, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I sincerely am grateful.
It was our pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.